Aloha, everyone. Hope you're all having a great weekend. Joshua Hayes at BigWayTrading.com. I was going to make this video last night, but very few people can play poker for 10 straight hours. I can. Even less people can watch poker for 7 straight hours. I can. So, because of the World Series of Poker, we're making the video on Saturday. But it gave me a chance to look at some further sentiment data. But before I get to that, let's go ahead and just recap the market really quick. The NASDAQ, very nice move, continuation into new all-time high grounds. What was missing on Friday again? The below average, lower volume than the session before. New York Stock Exchange, volume lower than the session before. The lower volume overall appears bad whenever you look at the SPY, Dow Jones Industrial Average, NASDAQ 100. However, the Russell 2000 lagged significantly on Friday, but still lagged in a very orderly fashion. And with volume coming in below average and lower than the session before, I would qualify Friday as a very constructive session. If you're going to pull back, that's how you want to pull back. So Friday overall gets the stamp, seal of approval on my end for being a good session. Now getting to the intraday stops that occurred on Friday. As you can see, these are all the limit orders that went off for me on my end. Everything happened within the first 30 minutes, as I said. Those stocks that I told you I wanted to buy later on. Enough capital was never raised to make any of the purchases on AAXN and MYRG, but MYRG gapped 1 cent above my limit order, never came back to fill it. So MYRG will just remain on the books along with AAXN, and hopefully we can get those filled in the future. But I'm operating with extremely small amount of cash. In fact, after Friday's session, it's less than 2%. As you can see, stops did trigger intraday on Friday, and as you can see here, CBay was 3 of the stops, of all these stops that triggered. But as you can see, you got even 2 more hedges in there, so there's 2 hedges right there, one for profits, one for tiny losses. So if you get rid of those 5 orders, you only had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 other individual stocks trigger stops. Profits, 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 profits. Every single one profits. Every single one. I just now realized that. So profits, 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 small losses, profits, 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 small losses. That's how you do it, everyone. So those were the intraday stops. Then for the end of day sell signals, there is a 20%er. Since it's the weekend, we can go over that one. CMTL RSI is over 80 for the first time. This was the entry here. I know it's nothing dramatic or anything, so here's my plan. I haven't been taking these 20% sell signals because I've had enough capital to take care of the new long positions, but now that I do not, I will start taking the 20% signals. But that being said, even though this is technically a 20% sell signal on CMTL, the volume surge and the extension from the previous pivot point isn't enough for me to lock in profits, so I won't be doing that on my end since I don't operate on an end-of-day market sell order level. Plus, the thing's only up 20%. So even though it's technically a 20% sell signal, I'm not doing that on my end. I'll let it run. Now to the 50% sell signals. UTMD, this one is pretty straightforward. That stop that you saw trigger intraday, I had it right here. So I had a stop right here. My final stop on the trade is back, I do believe, right here. So I had a third here, a third here, and a third here. Following this session here, I now will have half here, and that's splitting hairs to right here where a quarter will be. And then the final quarter is going to be, yeah, it'll be right there still. So the 200-day moving average is not caught up. So a quarter here, a quarter there, and then half right there remaining of my UTMD position. EGAN finally closed below its 20-day moving average on above average volume after the first crack about a week ago. So that's a 50% sell signal. It's splitting hairs right here. So I have 25% of the 50% sell signal right here, 25% there. And then on EGAN, I still have a lot of different stops. I believe I have one here, one here, one here, one here, one here, or maybe just right there is my final stop, but I've eliminated all these stops and I've raised them up to here because the 200-day moving average. Why is that line not showing up? Oh, because it's having an issue right there. So that's why, because the 200-day moving average is caught up to all these support levels. So that's why my final stop on EGAN is right there. And then Netflix, 50% end-of-day sell signal, closing below its 20-day moving average on above average volume, as you can. Golly, I'm pressing all the wrong buttons over here. Sorry. So right there, that's normally a 50% sell signal, but since it's so close to that first, wow. I'm having issues over here at Telechart. Since it's so close to the first support level, 25% there, 25% there, then I have a stop here, and a stop right there. So 1, 2, 3 remaining stops on the final half, 25% there, 25% there, and the only 100% sell signal, SPXS. It closed 1 cent below this low day right here. So that's a 100% sell signal on an end-of-day basis. But that was it. Now, getting back, before I get to the new long positions, I want to get back to the overall sentiment. Checking on the sentiment indicators, there's more bulls and bears in the Investors Intelligence and AAII survey. The put-call ratio is still at a more elevated 0.85, but it's not at that 1.04 that we saw, I believe, following Wednesday or Thursday session. The National Association of American Association of Individual Investors, I don't even know what the hell that is, and AAIM exposure index is back up to 89%. The CNN Fear and Greed Index is still at a 47 neutral. Remember, I've seen that thing at 100 before, signaling too much bearishness, and so that's a good sign for me. So with the CNN Fear and Greed not at 100, the NAAIM not at 200%, the put call not below 0.70%, the Investors Intelligence AAII, got to throw that out the window. The VIX is at 12, which is still at an elevated level, well off the lows that we saw in early 2018. So it's nowhere near complacent. And when I combine all that with the New York Stock Exchange advanced decline line being right at those new highs, everything looks good. And then the last thing I want to show you is that I saw this week, the Bank of America BM Bull and Bear indicator, 0 to 10. You can see where it was at our top in January, 8.6. You can see where we were at in our February lows, and this is where we're at right now. So we're nowhere near that super bullish level. So with that being said, without the yield curve being inverted, even with it being flat, that's fine with me. Once the yield curve inverts, then I start looking for a top, and it still comes about 6-12 months away. So with all of this lined up, the side that I still want to be on is the long side. But since the market continues to rally on below average lower volume, small measured positions with tight stops, which leads us into the one new long position and the one add signal for Monday. And let me change my scans here so I don't have to see that white dot or placemaker, whatever the hell you want to call it. NIHD is the only actionable new long signal, and the reason for it being is that ever since this day here, I've seen NIHD in my perfect speculator scan, and I've been waiting for an entry. I did not take this move as an entry because it was well outside its average true range for the past 21 plus sessions, so it was a no-go. But now it's trended higher again, and it's drifted back. And even though it's slightly extended from its 50 and 20-day moving average, and BOP is going the wrong way, I don't care. I really like this stock setup, perfect speculator quality. It was also my green BOP for 20-day scan, so I'm going to take it long. Should be 1.5% of my capital. Got to reduce it in half for it being extended from the 20-day moving average. 0.75% of my capital, which I don't have, so I'll just put whatever I can, get the most into it. $4.15 is my limit order. Your first cut, I hate it when it does that. The first cut loss level for me will be this 352 level, but you can go up here and use the 3, or is that the 3? I have 367 written, so where the hell is that at? Right there. So you could use this as your first cut loss level. My first cut loss level is going to be right there, 352, below that bar. Then I'll be using 326, 302. I got to look at all these up each time. 276, and then 236 is my trailing stops. So I'm going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stops initially on NIHD. So that's how I'm playing that one. And then the only other signal for Monday, add signal, an immediate add signal, BFST. BFST, excuse me, can slim quality stock. Also, obviously, in my IPO scan, made my green bot for the past 20 days scan and the max green bot for the 5-day scan. This would normally be 1.5 to 2.5% of my account capital, but because it's an add signal, it's 1.25% has to be reduced in half. Limit order, high day, 25.48. Now, since it's an add signal and we're getting a bigger size, I'm going to give it some room to work. First cut loss level, 24.89. Second cut loss level, 24.13, the most important one. And then I'll give a third and final cut loss level here to 23.09. But remember, if this low goes on heavier volume or while losing green bot before this level comes into play, this level will never, ever come into play, period. All right, everyone, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up there. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend, and I will see you in the chat room during the pre-market on Monday. Aloha.